There are many horrific murder cases that have been exposed around the world, and it is hard to believe that they actually happened or that people could commit such brutal acts. Sometimes, life is much crueler than detective novels when many cases of murder, kidnapping, betrayal, and torture have happened in real life. And today's case that the Untold Judgment mentioned is a mystery that has been a mystery for more than 2 decades in Japan. On December 30th, 2000, the Miyazawa family returned to their home in Setagaya, Tokyo as usual, not knowing that they were stepping into the land of death. By most standards, the Miyazawa family is a model Japanese family. Mikio Miyazawa is the eldest son in the family, 44 years old. He works for Interbrand, a large marketing company headquartered in London, with offices in more than 20 countries. Interbrand staff describe Mikio as easygoing, certainly not the type to make enemies. Yasuko Miyazawa, the family's 41-year-old wife, is much the same. Considered kind and compassionate, she works as a teacher and spends a lot of time with her 2 children, Niina, 8 and 6. Niina is in 2nd grade, a cheerful girl who enjoys soccer and ballet. Rei, the youngest son, has a slight speech disability. Mikio and Yasuko Miyazawa moved into their current home in 1990. At the time, the area was booming, with more than 200 households. The family's home was in a shared building that was split in 2. So the Miyazawas could live right next to Yasuko's mother, sister, and brother-in-law. The city planned to expand the park behind the Miyazawa's house, so many neighbors moved out. The community, which once had over 200 families, now has only a few families left. At the time of the murder, there were only 4 families living there, including the Miyazawas, Yasuko's sister's house right next door, and 2 other families living nearby. The construction and operation of the park caused quite a bit of noise and discomfort for the Miyazawas. The couple had planned to move to another place in early 2001, but before they could do so, they were tragically murdered. The week before New Year's Eve, Mikio got into a fight with a group of teenagers at a skate park because they were too loud. Around the same time, witnesses reported that he got into a fight with a group of young motorcyclists. Residents found many animals in the area being tortured. Rats, squirrels, and even cats were tortured or killed. One witness reported seeing a stray cat that often roamed the area lose its tail one day. On December 25th, Yasuko's family saw a strange car parked in front of their house. This happened not once but several times, even though there was another parking lot nearby. 2 days later, on December 27th, a man in his 40s was seen walking around the Miyazawa house, according to a witness. On December 29th, a man was seen near Seijogakuenmai Station, just a few kilometers from the Miyazawa house. The man was dressed in a skateboarding-style outfit, which witnesses said was unusual given the weather, as it was not warm enough. The man was also carrying a backpack. On the same day, a man with a similar description purchased a sashimi knife from a store in the area. On the 30th, a man matching the description appeared at Sengawa Station, about a mile from the Miyazawa home. He was believed to be between 35 and 40 years old, and appeared to be approaching the Miyazawas. The last recorded activity of the Miyazawa family was an email read at approximately 10:38 p.m. on December 30th, 2000. It was a work email that was believed been read by Mikio, as the email had a password. By this inference, it was the last moment at least one member of the Miyazawa family was alive. However, around 10 p.m. that night, a witness walking along the park path behind the Miyazawa house heard what sounded like an argument going on inside the house. They did not recall any physical noises or loud yelling, but they said it sounded like a couple arguing. About an hour and a half later, Yasuko's mother and sister, who lived next door, heard a loud noise coming from the Miyazawa house. That's when the witness saw a man hurrying down a nearby road. According to a taxi driver in the area, he picked up 3 passengers, all middle-aged men, all of whom were silent throughout the journey. In retrospect, the driver said it was strange because it was after midnight and all 3 people got off the car not far away. One of the men appeared to have a wound on his body and left a blood stain on the back seat of the taxi. The next morning, on New Year's Day, Yasuko's mother tried to call her daughter's family but couldn't get through. She didn't know that the phone line in the Miyazawa family's house had been cut off hours ago. She went outside and went to the house where her daughter, son-in-law, and 2 grandchildren lived. She rang the doorbell, but no one answered. She used her key ring to let herself in. Yasuko's mother entered the house, knowing something was wrong. She saw Mikio Miyazawa's body at the bottom of the stairs, stabbed multiple times and lying motionless, even with part of a broken knife still stuck in Mikio's head. Going up, she found the others. At the top of the stairs, she found her daughter's body, Yasuko, stabbed so deeply in the chest and head that bones were visible, and her granddaughter, Niina, who had also been stabbed dozens of times. The bodies of mother and daughter were piled on top of each other. In a nearby bedroom, she found her grandson, Rei. Rei's body was lying on the bunk bed in the adjacent bedroom. Unlike the others, the boy had been strangled. The horrifying scene left all the Tokyo police in shock, and Yasuko's mother was severely traumatized. An entire family of 4 had been murdered in the dead of night. At the scene, the police began to examine and piece together what had happened. Yasuko's mother, sister, and brother-in-law, who lived next door, recalled a loud noise around 11:30 that night. The police immediately suspected that the noise might have occurred when Mikio, the father, confronted the killer. The injuries Mikio suffered, multiple stab wounds, mainly to the neck, were caused by a sashimi knife left in the family's kitchen. During the attack on Mikio, the knife broke. Another knife believed to be the murder weapon was the one the killer had taken from Mikio and Yasuko's own kitchen, which he had used to kill the mother and daughter upstairs. The most unusual thing about Mikio's body was that he was still wearing his work clothes. The bodies of both Yasuko and Niina were found at the bottom of the stairs leading to the 3rd-floor attic, stabbed multiple times. Investigators noted the excessive stab wounds and believed that both victims had been stabbed even after death. This led to many theories that the killer was a misogynist, or at least had a tendency to act aggressively towards women and girls. The family's son, Rei, died from strangulation. Police believe that he may have been the first person in the family to be killed. Tokyo police initially believed that the killer had arrived at the victim's home around 11 p.m. and stayed there until dawn. Initially, the police believed that the killer had stayed until 10 a.m. to use the victim's computer. However, they later dismissed this theory and believed that Yasuko's mother had activated the connection by tapping on the computer mouse while in the house. After the murder, the killer raided the Miyazawa family's kitchen. He ate 4 small boxes of ice cream and drank several bottles of barley tea before going downstairs to the 1st floor and surfing the internet on the victim's computer at 1:18 a.m. In the upstairs bathroom, the police even found the killer's waste. After investigating, analysts discovered the things he had eaten, including sesame-coated spinach and green beans. This sparked rumors that the suspect was a man who still lived at home with his mother, as these were the boring foods a mother would feed her son at the time. Some reports said that the suspect even napped on the couch, ransacked the house, and threw some of the victim's belongings and papers into the bathtub. Ironically, the police had many clues about the killer, but could not find him. The police collected fingerprints and DNA of the killer, but to date, his personal information has not been recorded in the Tokyo police database. The police believe that the killer is a slim male, about 175 centimeters tall, due to the 75 centimeters long waist bag. He could be between 15 and 35 years old, right-handed. The bag contained many grains of sand originating from the coast of Southern California, USA, near Edwards Air Force Base. The long-sleeved shirt he left behind was also produced and sold only 130 pieces nationwide, but the police only tracked down 12 buyers. The shoes he wore were widely produced in Japan, but were sized according to Korean standards and were not sold in Japan. The shoes were estimated to be about 27.5 centimeters long. The handkerchief the killer left at the scene was neatly ironed. His clothes were washed in hard water, which contains many minerals and vitamins, while the Japanese have long since switched to soft water, which contains a lot of sodium. However, Korea still uses hard water. The killer's outfit was quite similar to that of skateboarders. A witness said that on December 29, 2000, He saw a man in skateboarding attire at a train station a few miles from the Miyazawa family home. This man was wearing thin clothes while the weather was cold, so the witness noticed him. On the same day, a man with a similar appearance bought a sashimi knife at a local supermarket. This is the only knife purchased here on December 29th, 2000. On the afternoon of December 31st, a young man in his 30s appeared at the medical center at Tobuniko Station, a few hours by train from the crime scene. He did not declare his identity and had a relatively deep cut on his hand, exposing his bone. But the young man appeared almost indifferent to the wound, which caught the attention of medical staff. So, the police hypothesized that the perpetrator was a skateboarder who was admonished by the Miyazawa family for making noise in the park. Out of dissatisfaction, he climbed into the Miyazawa house and murdered innocent citizens. This hypothesis is not without basis because the area around the Miyazawa house is very deserted, sparsely populated, suitable for sports practice. A week before the incident, Mr. Mikio also had a loud argument with some young men riding large motorbikes. While investigative journalist Fumiya Ichihashi, who has spent many years pursuing the case, affirmed that the perpetrator was a former military officer hired. He was trying to get back the compensation money from the Miyazawa family when the government expanded the area of Setagaya Park. The sand also came from a military base, which cooperated with Yokota Air Base, about a 40-minute drive west of Setagaya Ward. The iron towel was also within military regulations. This suspicion was based on the fact that the criminal left behind a weapon, clothes, accessories, and many shoe prints, fingerprints, and blood samples at the scene. Perhaps he was confident that he would never be caught because he was familiar with the law and police investigations. The police determined that this was not a murder for money because there was a lot of cash and valuables in the victim's house that were not lost. On the contrary, before leaving the scene, the perpetrator took a coat, all the family's New Year's greeting cards were gone, and the computer's power cord was also not found. By 2006, advances in forensic technology allowed blood samples to be tested at the scene. The results showed that the killer was a man of mixed race and most likely not a Japanese citizen. His parents were of different cultural backgrounds, his mother from the southern Mediterranean region, his father from East Asia. His DNA had a unique genetic sequence found in 1 in 13 Japanese, 1 in 10 Chinese, and 1 in about 5 Koreans. Even with the genetic information, Japanese police were unable to identify the killer. Somehow, the killer had not been discovered and had not appeared in police databases for 20 years. According to Shinichi Ishizuka, a law professor and director of the Center for Criminology Research at Ryukoku University in Kyoto, the Miyazawa family murders really shocked Japan because they combined many details, such as happening on New Year's Eve, which is a peaceful time for family reunions, or the victim being killed in his own home, which is a safe place. In total, 280,000 Japanese police officers participated in the process of receiving and analyzing about 16,000 pieces of data in the Miyazawa family murder case. But now, they are still waiting for key clues to help solve the case. In mid-December, 20 years after the Miyazawa family massacre, Japanese police began distributing leaflets containing a lot of information about the incident and the physical characteristics of the perpetrator. The leaflets also mentioned a reward of 20 million yen for information. The police's efforts did not make Professor Ishizuka feel optimistic. It happened so long ago. This case is so famous that there is no way that there are people who have information that could help the police, but do not know about the incident. It is a tragedy, but I do not think we will ever know what really happened that night. The professor shook his head. However, more than 23 years have passed. All investigations have reached a dead end, but the pain of those left behind has never subsided. Every year on the anniversary of the Miyazawa family's death, officers from the Japanese Metropolitan Police Department go to the victim's house to pay their respects and bow their heads in apology. Every year, they reiterate their promise that they will do everything they can to find the perpetrator and bring justice to the victims. They also set up a separate team of 37 people to continue investigating and solving the mysterious case of the Miyazawa family. Thank you for watching our deep dive into the Miyazawa family murder case. Despite the passage of time, the quest for justice remains alive, with the police continuing to seek new leads and honor the memory of the victims. We hope this story has resonated with you and sparked your curiosity about the complexities of crime and justice. We'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you think about the theories surrounding this case? Do you believe the killer will ever be found? Leave your comments below and let's discuss. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more intriguing content.